I'm going to bring Carrie in, and I want to talk about the script.
Well,
Hey, I just love how it just all of a sudden you're there, right? Like
surprises me.
it happens to me all the time whenever I jump. Like, yeah, I'll just join some. Oh, hi. Oh, great. Hey, I'm here. Um, yes, man. So many things are going on, Carrie. But I want to really hang out on Michael Lambie's comments about getting off the script.
Yes.
So let me just paint a picture for those who are watching here, and then I'll let you kind of just share your reflections on it. So, and also there's a little bit of a backstory too, which I just found out. Now, I thought that he was like somewhere in Canada and he was on City Line, which is based out of Toronto. So I had no clue where he was. The reality is that he lives in Oakville. So you see Mesa in the chat right now. She lives in Oakville. That I'm literally on the border of Mississauga and Oakville. So he is like a stone's throw away from me.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
sure we're gonna do a live at some point in like in real life meeting because it's a pretty cool conversation. But so that's Oakville, and Oakville is one demographic, and he grew up in an area called Jane and Finch, this intersection, and it's a rougher part of Toronto, and it's known for yeah, for many things, but the crime there is bad. There's a lot of good athletes coming out of the area, and there's a whole culture with Jane and Finch, which is awesome and very unique. So coming out of there, I've met people who have become police officers and bodybuilders and motivational speakers who have gone back to help their community. So it becomes this ethos of like you get out of Jane and Finch and you do something to get back in and help people. Right? That sort of rhetoric, become police officers, that sort of thing. So for this guy to be an interior designer from Jane and Finch, and now to be flown around the world to work on projects and to be on television to do designs and to get commissioned to do massive, massive projects, there is a piece of you that is definitely going to collide with that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So that's the one part of it. And then the other part was now he was saying that he would be in the middle of these projects and people would trust him and trust him with a massive project. And then he'd be trying to do things in the way that it's supposed to be done. He'd stay in this box of this is how it's supposed to look and this is the person I'm supposed to talk to when this happens. And he lost that sense of who he was because he's in a broad stroke an artist and in a narrow frame an interior designer. So he had to get off of his script of this is how it's done and this is what an interior designer should do right now and move to the wider script of this is Michael Lambie as a creative and this is what we need to do. And then he went back to his client now as this creative, and it changed the conversation, changed the way that she looked at him, he looked at her, solve things, and then that turned out to be a great project. And his life has gone on a different trajectory as soon as he got off his script, as he said, and go. So
I wish I was at home. I wish I had my notes because I was literally watching and I was like pausing it and then like rewinding it and talking to my partner. Did you hear this? This is something I need to hear, but did you hear this? Is this like what you've been trying to say to me? So it was a great conversation. And all those little things, like I can't tell you how many times I paused, like, yeah, okay, yeah, just take a little note of that. On the bulletin
mm-hmm.
board, a reminder for the future. But that trusting yourself and being yourself and not trying to fit in what you're supposed to do, not going off your script of what other people think you should be doing and what you've been
Yes.
kind of been trained in a way to be like, oh, well, this is how I'm supposed to, and this is how I'm supposed to do thing. I can't wear my, Red Hot Chili Peppers t-shirt because I'm going to this particular thing. I need to, look the way I'm supposed to be and with the way they want me to look, really.
Proper.
Right.
Yes.
So it was
Right.
a very interesting perspective of letting go and then things going better because he would let go and took himself off of that script. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it was really retrospect.
Yeah.
There were things that resonated yesterday. So yeah, I really wish I had my notes with me because I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, this and this.
I'm sure it'll come out. And like for those of you who are watching, if you were watching it yesterday and just want to put some a comment in there, or even join us on screen, like just request to join, and we'll just bounce ideas off each other. But from a movement perspective, I had this imagery as he was talking about a golf swing. Because when you're doing a golf swing, you can't muscle your way through the whole stroke. You're here, like you can't just like, you have to at some point let go and let the momentum and let everything go with the proper swing motion. I can't, if I muscle my way through it, the ball goes 5 yards, right? You got, so, and you can't Happy Gilmore it every time. That might work once, but that's not going to work every single time, right? So that's what I heard when he was saying that. Like, it's much like a golf swing. You have to let go and just let things flow with the way it's supposed to go in the way that your body will take it, instead of trying to manufacture every part of the process and muscle your way through it. Like, you're not going to get that same fluidity through your life if you're staying on the script of, I do this, I raise my arm, I move my shoulder, I engage my core, I coil, recoil, I put, it's too mechanical and it's not fluid and it's not us.
Right. And you're going to feel that choppy water, that jolting in your life. Because it's like, well, I'm taking a step, I'm not going, I'm taking a step. Okay, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not finding, like you said, the flow of that movement. Just like an exercise, like just, I'm the queen of overthinking things. And like, if you're just too much, there is that point of working on an exercise and working and focusing into it. But are you focusing in on you, or are you focusing in on what you're supposed to be doing? Like, how is your body supposed to go into the full pike on the chair versus someone else's movement? And yes, you're still doing the same thing, but maybe a cue that you hear is different. And it's like, oh, and then the teacher next to you is like, wants to slap you upside the head because they've been saying that to you for 15 years. And
now,
they're like, all of a sudden, and it's like, because I stopped thinking.
Yes, the sound's a bit choppy, so if I interrupt you, I apologize, because there's a gap in the sound. I thought that you're done your thought, so.
Oh, it's okay.
But it's funny that you said that, right? Because you're saying, like, you said to your partner, "Is this what you've been trying to tell me?" Sort of thing. Like, I can't say that I've heard anyone ever ask that question of their significant other. Yeah, no.
Well, again, we're very honest with each other, and for years and years, he's been trying to tell me, like, how much influence and what a good Pilates instructor I am, and how I need to push myself and be more, I don't need to be the Mona, I don't need to be the next Rael, but start really putting myself out there and expressing that, and just letting go of the script and letting go of just, well, no, I need to overplan and everything needs to be to this detail and I need to do it this way. And I'm going to write a report about the next day of my life. And I'm going to do research on everything. Like, sometimes it's like, let it go. Just let it be. And it's just such a different thing. I've been very blessed with both of my significant others in my life, of like, both of them, they're just that, it'll fine. Work out. Yes, you have to put work into it, but stop stressing about it. And I'm the stressor. I'm the overthinker. I'm this one. So it's just there's, like, again, like I said, multiple times where it's just like, okay, I think what you've been trying to say to me has finally just clicked in my little head right here from their conversation. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean now. So it was perspective of, right, like, stop overthinking. Like, yes, of course you want to plan and think things, but you have to, oh yes, but if this boulder hits your life, well, great, but you don't just stop your life. You
Mm-hmm.
can either go around it, go over it. You got to figure out the ways to go about it without it ruining and stopping and blocking your life.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. I'm glad that that message connected with you. And I'm always happy to hear. I like being that cheerleader for people.
Hmm.
But my thing is, it also, it's a double-edged sword. It frustrates me and it breaks my heart when people can't hear or can't believe what I'm saying.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, I can say to someone, you look great. But they see in the media that compared to this person, they don't look great. And they believe a stranger over me. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves, and I've said it a million times on here. So when the flip side of that is when you say that, like that resonated with me, I hear that message, and now I hear it, I'm gonna embrace it. I'm just like, whoa, hooray, right? Like, and I celebrate that and cheer you on as I start to see more of you out here with your professionalism and your insight and your wisdom. Like you've been on here so many times, and yeah, I think that your partner is right. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yes. And like going back to like the compliment thing that you were talking about, that he has nagged on me, and I will say nag because he's kind of had to, of years of he would say something like, "Oh, you look beautiful today," and I would roll my eyes or just be like, "Oh, thanks," or "You're supposed to say that," and he's like,
Supposed to say that.
Stop. Like I'm saying it and I'm being nice and I'm being honest. So do you, and he would tell me, like, do you know how hurt that makes me feel that you think that I would lie to you about something like that? And it was just like, I never really thought of it that way. It was just always, well, yeah, but why would anybody say something nice to me? That doesn't make sense. What do you want? Why are you using me? What are you doing? And it's just all of that mistrust that I've had over the years. And it's like, and he was one of the few people that's ever like, just stop. Don't. No, you just shut up, say thank you, smile, and walk away. And if you have anything else to say, just shut your mouth, don't say it, and just be grateful that someone took the time to be nice and complimenting you.
Yes. Thank you for the public service announcement. And yeah, that's yeah. Yeah. Let's change the subject because I feel like that I could beat that one into the ground. It's so much, Carrie. Like that's on because okay. I'll say one more thing about that. When I was working with youth, I used to say all the time, like I work with teenagers and like young people and stuff like that. And I was like my prayer was that my words would be 10 times more powerful than whatever lie that they had heard before that.
Yes.
That like whatever came out of my mouth would actually sink into their heart more so than the last person who said you're worthless, or the last person who said we don't love you or we don't need you or whatever message you like. I always be so, yeah, that would be my prayer, legit, like that my words would actually be the words that they hear louder
Hmm.
than the other words, right? So on a small scale, whether it's my wife and saying a dress looks good on her, or it's like a kid, one of my kids, and telling them that they're good at something, there's this default, well, you're the husband, you're supposed to say it. Well, you're my dad, you're supposed to believe in me thing that is like, no, it's bigger than it. Like your partner, it's bigger than that. Actually, that is true. And I wish that the other voices wouldn't be as loud as my voice right now.
Right.
That's all I have to say on that. There's a funny line that Michael said yesterday, and he was talking about, once again, on the script and these messages and these voices that we listen to. And he said, in those moments when you have a difficult situation, you're stuck or whatever, he goes like, would I go back and ask 19-year-old Michael what to do right now?
Right.
And you're like, of course you wouldn't. But that's the voice that you're listening to. That was the last message that said you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or don't try because you're going to fail again. So in a sense, you are actually consulting with that younger, immature, calloused version of yourself for advice in this moment.
Yes. Well, because again, if we don't deal with the calluses of whatever trauma or just again the repetitive nature of what we've heard in those influential times of our lives, that it just becomes like a record that plays, and with actively taking that record off,
Yep.
that's always be the one that's the loudest, because that was the ones that were embedded in your head before your frontal lobe was fully developed and your cognitive understanding and life understanding of what you know at 18 compared to what you know at 40, like, or 50 or 60. Like, it's like, no, you don't. You were an idiot. Like, it's just like, wow.
Yeah,
You
that's yeah.
I have a good job, but wow,
Mm-hmm.
I would never ask that of my 18-year-old self.
Right. Yeah. But now, and both of us, and yours is such a strong story of just like, with like losing a loved one early, and like you're standing now,
Hmm.
and you have this track record of just grace and joy and happiness and other good things happening since that point. So it becomes a checkpoint to
Hmm.
say, I've got through this checkpoint and life is good. So don't get stuck next time something bad goes wrong, because you have these checkpoints of how you got through it. And my divorce is a major situation for me where I esteem marriage so high. I worshiped the institution of marriage. And when that crumbled, it took me a long time to get out of that. And now I land on my feet and have this amazing wife and great blended family and amazing business and conversations like this happening on the regular. And it's like, okay, well, there's your checkpoint.
Right.
Like, instead of going back to that 19-year-old version who is callous in this example and has all these negative messages, like, why don't we move it up, the reference point up a little bit to that checkpoint,
Right.
and go from there?
And we should. Now, I'm guilty of not doing that. I still go back to some of the other ones. And then,
Yes.
like, even yesterday, though, was a good example of something happening. And it was just like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because, even 15 years ago, my response to this situation would have been being angry and yelling and, like throwing paper into the trash can with aggression. Like, it would have been a completely different reaction to what I had. And I
Yes.
acknowledged, wow, 10 years ago, my reaction would not have been the same. It would have been
Right.
more from a perspective, not from a, yeah, this sucks, but let's figure out the solutions
Mm-hmm.
for the
Right.
situation. Instead of just nailing the problem into it and being like, how dare this person do this? And why?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And it was just more like, okay, well, yeah, that's not very pleasant, but it is what it is, and I can move forward from this, learn from it, and move in this situation. And that was an awesome moment yesterday. I was just kind of like, hey, I have grown up a little bit. Good for me.
Yes, that it feels good, doesn't it? I don't know. Show of hands in the chat if you had that moment where you realize that you've actually grown up a little bit. Like, it's so funny you say that, because I'm like, yeah, I've had that moment where I'm like, good for me. No one else saw that. Maybe the
Right.
person I experienced this with probably didn't even notice it, but I did.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I can't, my checkpoint for that sort of thing, honestly, is when I share my story of some traumatic incident or some major checkpoint, and how I listen to how I share the story. How much of that narrative
Yeah.
is what happened to me? How much of that narrative is how much of it is my fault? How much of it is just circumstance? How much of that is just the victory story of after? Like, you know what I mean? I listen to the pieces of how I put that story together. Do I sound like a victim right now? Do I sound like a victor right now?
Right.
So interesting.
All in perspective of how you do it
Yep.
in life. And That's why I think sometimes it's important to have those people like my partner around you that just every now and then turn the mirror and say, look, and look over here. And then remembering that sometimes you have to do that to yourselves. Like yesterday, having that moment of, hey, okay, no, I'm not where I want to be. But I think it's Matthew McConaughey. I think it was one of his speeches that he gave at one of the colleges years ago. But it was such a poignant point of talking about someone asked him who his hero was. And he
Yeah.
said, and he thought about it, that my hero was me in 10 years. And then they asked him again, like, hero now, because it's 10 years later. And he's like, me in 10 years again, or me in 5 years. I'm never going to reach my hero. All I can do is keep being a better me and then keep improving me and improving the environment and energy around me. And then
Yes.
I'll always be a better version of me. And I will never reach that perfection because it's always a learning, changing challenge as the roads change and whatnot. But that I just liked that thought of like, okay, well, I need to be my hero and I need to be the best that I can be and not be disappointed because I didn't make it. I'm never going to make it. I'm always going to be striving to learn, to grow, to be that better person for me and family and my clients and students and anyone I'm around. So just a nice, it reminded me of that yesterday with that conversation. I was like, oh yeah,
Yes.
this
I fully just took notes on the screen because, yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. Hi Mel and Renee. Coach Rob and Renee, you're still in the house. Good to see. Uh that was it was good. Again, he's just like it was he even recognized that 55 minutes had gone by and we didn't talk about colors or what styles in season or
right.
what. So if you came tuning in yesterday looking for interior decoration ideas for your house, sorry, you missed it. Yeah.
But that's the great thing of all of your conversations with people is, yeah, sometimes it's about fitness and sometimes it's about life and sometimes it's just about random fun stuff that's like, oh, that just made me smile and giggle today. Like
Yep.
especially with you and Misty sometimes and other people.
She's a joker. She's
Yeah.
makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's such a great thing to have that ability to be talking to people and listening. And I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to both of you guys on both your podcasts of just the different
Mm.
topics, perspectives, and like sometimes I listen and I'm like, I should know that. Like I should know that. And I shouldn't, yeah, maybe I should take some more notes and come back to that later.
Yes. Yep. That was me yesterday. This on the getting off the script thing, I wrote down some of the things he was reflecting on is how when he kind of got off his script and started to kind of live his true expression of who he was, or just as Misty was saying, just be yourself, like truly be yourself. He stopped limiting himself, obviously. He stopped limiting uh the response and how this clients responded to him, right? Because their responses locked into your responses, and then how just the amount that he learned about himself, right? And how creative he can be, and how much, how talented he really is, right? Like he was so humble in saying like he's selling paintings, right? He has stuff that he's doing that he didn't realize that there was a market or a demand for, and that I think is one of those moments that we all in this industry get to where we realize that someone is requesting us. They're requesting our classes. They're requesting our product or our perspective on something. They suddenly are recognizing that we have something to say, that we are an authority on something, and that humbling moment we recognize that like, wow, I can. I mean, if I put a painting up, no one's going to buy it. He puts a painting up, people are going to like, there'll be an auction for it, right? So there's a difference. So when you get to that place where you recognize that I actually have something to contribute to the world through my gifts and talents, when I get off of my script and truly be myself, and just how much he learned about himself, I thought that was just amazing, right? So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just anytime, I think anytime that you have a moment that you can kind of have those checkpoints with yourself, it's just, you're really opening up such a new bridge to your world. Even like he was saying, like, he was like, I'm open minded, but I've been this way, even though I
Yes.
felt
You
here.
felt like it. Yes.
And I think it's that, I don't even know how to say it. I'll just use
Good
Misty's
morning.
quote there in like just getting out of the matrix. Like, are you taking the
Yep.
red pill or blue pill?
Hmm.
Because either you're just going to keep trotting along and chugging down the road and doing and repeating the same thing and expecting a different result, or
Hmm.
you're going to get out of that insanity and just kind of jump into the chaos and go, all right, well, this is different, but I'm going to find it here. And
Right.
that fear, that jumping, I think is usually what keeps personally myself and other people from growing in the way that he has through that time
Yes. Right.
and
Exactly.
really doing it. And it usually takes a person or an event or something,
Hmm.
and a self appreciation of like, wow, he didn't know that he was in, like, he knew he was artistic, but he didn't know he was such a good painter that people would want his paintings. And it's just like,
Yes.
how could you know that? And then you can like again turn that back at, go like, yeah, but how do you sit there and say that you're not a good enough Pilates instructor? You're not good enough at this. So it was that interesting perspective of like,
Yeah.
well, why? We're like, why didn't he know that when I didn't know that about
Right.
myself? And so
Yeah.
it's,
Absolutely.
but it was, yeah, it was just wonderful listening to him watch and talk about his journey with that and recognizing that self-worth and that self, just amazing, and just his energy coming off
Yes.
of screen of, it was a recording for me, but it's just like you could just see like his energy, like if there was like an aura glowing around him, it was just getting brighter and
Right.
brighter. Talked and it was just like, yes, I'm loving this is amazing, everyone should have this moment and talk conversation. And like it was just, it was wonderful to watch such an energy change of like, oh, we're having a lovely conversation, it's lovely, lovely.
Yes.
And then it was like you saw his inspiration, you saw his joy
Right.
out of him.
Yes. Right. Exactly. It's like someone was like hand cranking a generator, and it just all of a sudden like the room was lit up, and then like the street was lit up, and then the community was lit up, and then like like it just kind of it just kept like spreading and spreading and spreading. And the more he talked about it, like he's
Yeah,
like so busy, and like it was like eyes wide open. I am so busy. Like I'm so excited to attack this day busy. Not I'm burdened busy. You know what I'm
right, it's
saying? Like
good tired, not just I'm exhausted,
yeah.
like that energy, that good happiness. And yeah, it was just, it was it's wonderful to see that in like people. And just it was great to see it and how
Yep.
passionate he was. And just again,
Yes.
just the joy of his life, the
Mhm.
life. If we could all avoid it, we would, but it's just not that way.
For
um
sure.
but yeah, it was just awesome to watch that, like you said, that generator of energy just building as he went.
Yep.
um
Yep. Yep. That, and just the other part, and it may have cut out when you said it, but the joy of moving in your place of passion, right? Like when people like you and I are, recognize that this Pilates thing is life giving for us, and we don't have to be doing some data entry job that could pay double the salary.
right.
I wouldn't be this happy, right? So when you see him, different industry, same life, same sense of being truly alive. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? And for my kids, that's the thing I want them to chase after, is being
Yes.
alive in whatever they do for their careers. Like it doesn't matter what the industry is. Like can you bottle that Michael Lambie feeling, like that
Right.
sense of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he just brought such an energy that doesn't have to be from being an interior designer. It comes from being yourself in your day-to-day job.
Yes. And then
So
would agree with that. Like just the ability to, if that's something that I could impart in my children, is a wonderful work ethic in yourself and knowing how to
Well said.
put that into their life. Like, yes, of course, I want you to be successful, but most importantly, I want you to be happy.
Yes.
And I want you to be happiness for other people around you. Like, I want that more than anything, especially in the world today. I want you guys to be able to walk out with confidence and walk the situation and be you. Whatever that is, whatever job you
Yes.
choose, whatever life path you choose, I don't care. I just want you to be happy, and I want you to be respectful of the people around you, and I want you to help other people shine their light. If you let your light shine, other people will shine around you, and you're giving that
Yes.
acceptance that it's okay to, no, it's okay that I'm happy, and if you're unhappy, then that's okay that you're unhappy, but stay away from me because I don't need that in my life. If you want help,
Ain't no time for that.
but I'm especially at this point in my life, I'm like, I just can't deal with the grumpy, negative people bombarding in. It's like, I mean, if that's the way you want to go, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong, but boy, your life must really be miserable, and that's why you're so miserable to other people.
Yep. So true. The thing you just said there about like work ethic in yourself really hit home because maybe it's just a Jamaican thing, but like there's a sense of work ethic. You have to work. And even if you want to play up on the like have multiple jobs, there's a sense of as a parent, that pride of knowing that your kids aren't lazy, that they're putting their work in to whatever they put their hands to. But you turn that on your head when you say that work ethic in yourself, where it's like, no, like put that energy into that soul crafting, that self discovery, that find out who you are, what you want, what you don't want. Put your work ethic into that, and everything else will fall into place. Is a totally different message than just go out there and work hard for someone else and be unhappy, whatever it is. Like there's a sense of turning that message inward that I like, that I wrote down, and I will definitely be using with your permission.
But again, hard is important. Like things don't just happen unless you're just a lucky duck and that's just your life and good for you. But there's also that it doesn't matter how hard you're working if you're not working on yourself and you're not working in a smart way.
Yep.
Because you work a lot of hours and that's great if that's what you want, but are you really getting to spend time on you and your family and doing all the things that do make you joyous besides your job? If you have a job that you enjoy and that you get to put into, but to be able to put that passion into the rest of your life as well. And if I can give that to my kids, that would be the greatest thing in the world, which I feel like my daughter is already at 4 years old, almost kind of like, I'm amazing. Like we were leaving and all the clients were waving bye to her and someone was like, you're very beautiful. And she looked at him and thought about it for a second. She's like, I am beautiful. And just looked right back at him like, yes, I agree with you.
That's awesome.
Keep that confidence, but that also humbleness of acknowledging of like, I agree with you, and not being like, well, of course I am. I'm fabulous and about it. But yeah.
That's so cute. Yeah. And probably there's a whole separate parenting conversation, but I'm sure it'd be easier to pull that back a shade than to push it forward 10 steps. So if they're like way off the deep end in terms of low self-esteem, right? So I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so. Because that would be something like with the conversation yesterday, or just some of the conversations just in general that go back and forth of finding that self-worth, putting in the work, putting in the acknowledgement of other people, also putting the work into you, like your partner, or
Yes.
look at.
That was a great piece of today's convo too.
Like it's just that remembering that it is a village that creates life, not just yourself and not just someone else's responsibility. Like it's a whole, it's that Venn diagram again of like this part's important, and this part in the center is very important in
Yes.
order to work on all of those other things.
Right. Yep. Yes. So good. Do you got a second to stick around? I'm not sure if Tasha can join us. I know she's talking at Momentum Fest this weekend. I just wanted to give a minute to my Momentum Fest people who are going to be talking, and I didn't. Usually, I'd have like Jessica or someone on this week, but it seems like it's been too busy to actually plan it properly. So, so Tasha, if you have a second, I know you might be driving right now, but to just talk about what you're talking about this weekend, I have a 11 o'clock client too, so it's going to be tight, but we'll make it happen. I'll actually just invite her on. If she says no, she says no. It's all good. 1 second here. Actually, she's not in there. Okay, she's gone. All good. Yes, it
Well,
was a
what is,
good conversation.
I guess I don't know anything about that. So what is Momentum Fest?
Okay, yeah. So Momentum Fest is a conference that Jessica Valant and her team have put on, where it's beyond just a Pilates conference. Like she looked at how they did yoga conferences, where it's just like this accepting open space where people can celebrate their movement and different movement modalities and stuff. So Momentum Fest takes that and moves it to, Pilates classes, dance classes, all these different things, and has everyone coming into the space to share their knowledge and their experience. And it's a glorified. I would say glorified. It's like a yoga conference, but for other movement modalities besides yoga. So it can be yoga, Pilates, whatever it is, but it's centered around a lot of the Pilates space and people who have other modalities within that Pilates space. So like someone like Tasha who does dance and like, those type of classes. Oh, hi there. Think Beyond PR. What's going on? So yeah, so people who have different modalities can also have expression there, right? So it's a
Yeah.
really cool conference. So I'll put it in the chat here. So good to see you as well, Jennifer. Momentum Fest. So yes, everyone, please follow Moment. I feel like I'm a kid writing on a chalkboard at school now. Momentum Fest. There. Follow and yeah. So last year they did a virtual component. So I spoke at Momentum Fest last year, and so I'm missing it because if I wasn't running my campaign right now, I would have been at that. So I just declined like pretty much every speaking opportunity, presenting opportunity until October. So got to stay locked. So yes, so I'm missing it the live. It would have been so nice to like actually just physically like touch people and say hi, but we're here. We're doing it. I'm enjoying these moments still, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So that being said, thank you for joining me again. I really love having you. You've been like I have like you and Debbie and all these people who have kind of been like I guess my in-house, reflection post conversation day people. For lack of better
Well,
words.
that's a part of it.
It's so fun. So yes, thank you. And yeah, and thanks to everyone who joined us. See, Kristen just jumped in. Jennifer, good to see you. And Celia, thanks for sticking around, my Australia friend. And that's about it. Carrie, thanks so much. It's always fun chatting with you. And I'm going to definitely use that work ethic in yourself line. You'll see that come back around. Cool.
Day, and I will.
Awesome. All right. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. And we are out.